control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal's Bedtime Stories From Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. I'm here for you. And I see we got a bunch of people here for me as well. It's great to see you guys. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. Carrie, I did message you on Facebook in case you didn't see that. Just something I thought might help. I see that you did. I see you did see that. But, all right. So, everybody, welcome. I hope you're having a great last piece of the weekend. It is Sunday, which means tomorrow's Monday, but remember, think positive. It's going to be an epic day tomorrow. You just know it, and just maybe it will be, but I hope you guys are ready because it's time for bed. So we are underway here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bedtime Stories From Beyond. If you're kind of new to the show, maybe you just stumbled onto it. These are the shorter format shows. They're just 45 minutes to an hour long, usually thereabouts. Sometimes we go longer. Depends on what's going on, but generally try to keep them to about 45 minutes to an hour, usually more towards the hour. But it's just kind of our night to tell stories and relate some ghost stories primarily, but we cover a lot of things on these shows as well. If you would like to be a part of the show, you have a story of your own you'd like to share, and it can be anything paranormal related, which can be UFO, cryptid, it can be spirits, can be missing time, whatever. Please feel free to call in. The number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And if during the course of the show you think, hey, maybe I should call in, what's that number? It's right up here, right up there, those little numbers that I always have the best intentions of blowing up, but just haven't done it yet. So there you go. So there's always a way to get in touch with the show when we're on. If you'd rather not call in but would like to share your story, please feel free to email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And I will be happy to read your story for you if you prefer. Some people just don't like to speak publicly or, put themselves out there. And I understand. It's kind of weird to call into a show, but we're pretty friendly here. So I hope I'm a friendly face and voice for that matter. But I just love it. We've had some amazing audience participation on this show, especially in the last couple months. There's just been a real uptick on the amount of information people are sending in and stories and encounters, and it's really cool. It's just really getting to be the show that I always imagined I wanted. Not that I don't mind digging up stuff for you guys to talk about and to discuss with you, but there's nothing more powerful to me than your experiences, out second only to my own, which I live through. So I just love hearing from you. It's definitely something that is important to me and important to the show. And, it just really shapes the community that we have. And yeah, that's what I got. So hello, Jamie Harms. Jamie Harms, good to see you. That's a newer name. I thought I saw you just got the other night as well, but I'm sorry I don't get a chance often to look at the chats. So a lot of times I see these names when I'm reviewing the show the next day or something. But it's great to see you, and I'm really, really excited about the fact that so many new faces are coming in, or at least names. I imagine there's a face attached to every one of those, but it's just really fun that it's growing. Oh, okay. All right. So I did say hello before. All right, cool. But yeah, this is the show. This is the Bedtime Stories, and I imagine at some point I will get reading some stories. What do you guys think of that? Oh, Jamie is one of the killer mods at Bigfoot Odyssey. Oh, very cool, Jamie. Thank you for coming over as well. And Carrie, good to see you. And all of you guys that are in here, I've said hello to a few of you in chat, but let's just go through the list, I guess, quickly and see who's here. Beth Fierce, hello, Beth. And thanks, Beth, again for that email. That was really cool. Bigfoot in Germany, hello. Bigfoot Odyssey, that's Carrie himself. Chris Guy is in here. Hello, Chris. Hi, Deb. Deborah Varner, who is our Paranormal Portal psychic and will be on next month to do some readings. We had a schedule screw up, and I kind of dropped the ball on it this month, but she will be here next month to do readings. If you ever want a private reading of your own, definitely get in touch with Deb. She is amazing, and she is the most reasonably priced psychic out there. I'll guarantee you'll never find a more inexpensive reading with the incredible caliber of psychic that she is. So DH, hello, good to see you. Eddie H, got the H's here. You guys related? No. Just kidding. Good to see you, Eddie H. I'm not familiar with you, but I'm really pleased that you came in. Elaine Clifford, good to see you. Gemini Moon, hello, and thank you so much today, Gemini. Sent a donation to us. That was so very cool. I'm just humbled by that. You guys have been amazing, helping us out on the show and helping to make sure that we can continue to do things and expand things as much as we're able. And you guys have facilitated so much of what the portal is. Just case in point, just a week ago, my mixer board died. And I put a message out there and said, hey guys, got some bad news. On Facebook, I said that our mixing board had died. It was fried. I don't know what I'm going to do. Don't know how long the show is going to be down for. And man, you guys rallied. You guys totally rallied. And suddenly I got all these donations and people coming out of nowhere to help us out. And boom, I had another board within 3 days delivered to the door. And it was like, wow. So this is the show you guys are creating. And I was so absolutely humbled and amazed by that. So thank you guys. This is your show as much as it is mine. Just thank you so much. So that was Gemini. Where are we at? I am Pam. Hello, I am Pam. Isaac Areola, good to see you. Jamie Harms, hello. Josh Jacobs, thank you, Josh, for all that you've done lately too. You're amazing. Christy, Sci-Fi Gal, great to see you. Always wonderful. Lisa Heilman, hello. Paranormal Voices, who said they were going to go back to bed, but they were listening. But it is bedtime. It's the Bedtime Stories after all, so they're doing it right. Renee Cruz, how you doing, Renee? Renee's been with us for a long, long time. A long-time friend of the show, an amazing part of the show as well. And Tesla Tech 89. Welcome, everybody. And if I missed your name, I do apologize. I can only, read what's on the list there, but I'll keep watching to see if other names. Oh, Daniela. Hello, Daniela. Wonderful to see you. Thanks for coming in. So we are going to get under the way here. Let's see. Oh, Duke came in. Hey, Duke. Duke, Mr. Brian Sullivan is in the house as well. So, if you haven't noticed, he's part of the mod team now. So thank you, Duke, for doing that. I really appreciate it. He's just been a great help to the show in so many ways. And raising awareness, introducing me to so many people in the community. So thank you so much. But, all right, let's see where we're at here. I got a story right off the bat here I want to bring to you. This is a long one that I didn't read the other night because it was just pretty long for the amount of time we had left. So let me get to this one. And this one's coming out of Massachusetts. 1997, I moved back to the house I had lived in as a teenager on the Hudson-Marlborough border. My parents were going through a divorce at the time, and the house was for sale. And hey, I read this one. I'm sure I read this one. No, I read it. I'm sorry. I think I read it, but I'm going to close it because I don't want to repeat material here on the show. I sometimes leave tabs open for some reason or another, but usually it means I haven't read it. But that one I recognize. So let me get to the next one. This one's coming out of Florida. Went on my very first ghost hunt to a cemetery called Oak Lawn Cemetery in downtown Tampa. My 15-year-old daughter, almost 5-year-old son, and 3-year-old daughter arrived at this cemetery, and she took her kids? What? Oh, man. My 15-year-old daughter, almost 5-year-old son, and 3-year-old daughter arrived at the cemetery at around 4 to 4:30 p.m. Just to let everyone know, my children are not frightened by any of this. Well, that's great, but you don't want your kids getting an attachment or becoming the target of something. Ooh, do what you will, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't advocate taking small children on ghost hunts. I mean, they may be brave as hell and just the most precocious kids in the world, but man, there's a lot of darkness out there, and you don't want to expose your kids to that. Just my public service message, take it or leave it, but wow. They are more respectful and very interested in the subject. My 15-year-old daughter has had many paranormal experiences in her young life, and we together created a light bulb to brighten really bright, and make a buzzing noise and then dim and then repeat itself while during a heated argument that both her and I had in a room one day. Oh, okay, so they were arguing and the light bulb was reacting. Well, maybe they got a lot of spiritual energy among them or within them. Maybe some untapped abilities. I believe that was the kinetic energy and was happening between us both. As for my son, he has seen his papa, who passed away a little over a year ago, and he's fascinated by the whole paranormal experiences rather than freaked out. As a matter of fact, after an hour of him nonstop talking about it, after we had left the cemetery and wanting to see the pictures we took, we had to tell him, okay, enough. And my 3-year-old doesn't have a clue yet. I don't know. I don't like that, though. Wow. It had been a bad overcast all day. It had been a bad overcast all day long. Okay. So it seemed like it was around 6:30 p.m. rather than at the time it actually was. To get along with my story, I've been to the cemetery many times in the past, and I would say the last time I was there before this time was in 1998. I always got this feeling when I walked into this particular cemetery, like you're being watched. Not by anything sinister necessarily. I never took any pictures in a cemetery before, and never this one. I have never went on a ghost hunt before either. I've only accidentally caught them on film before. This time I went purposefully to capture some kind of spiritual activity on film. So we all start to walk into the gates of the cemetery, and the wind picked up quickly, and it was a bone-chilling cold. Now, it was not cold on the day, nor was it hot, just overcast. Remember, I live in Florida. Then it started to sprinkle rain, and then it started to pour. We saw a wooden shed type of building painted in white with a covered deck to take cover, and there were no benches or anything, just a small covered deck to sit or stand on the floor of it. And I don't know what the shed was used for. Maybe shovels and lawn equipment or things to repair the headstones with when they get damaged, but who knows? Who cares? It kept us from getting soaking wet, and to get along with the story, the instant we walked in there, we felt pulled in all different directions. However, we had to wait under this white wooden building until hopefully the rain let up. So we sat there talking while it rained maybe a good 10 minutes, and then it lightened up. At this point, I stood up from this wooden deck of this building and was compelled to take a photo directly in front of me. It was my very first picture, and I actually caught something unbelievably interesting. There were orbs with tall tails shooting up into the air all over the place, and then by one of the last trees on the right. And there's another orb, but the tail end seemed to be wider in girth, almost like it was forming somewhat of a figure. Now, mind you, it's slightly raining still. When I took this picture, you can see the rain in the picture Also, in the top right-hand corner of this picture of orbs, there is a strange looking, well, I wouldn't call it an orb, but what is that? It has the shape of a butterfly. Very odd to me. Now, I'm one of the first to debunk or not give much thought to orbs because they could be caused by any number of things. Yeah, like rain. A lot of times rain is a big one. However, these particular orbs are much different. Oh, and we were the only ones in the cemetery the whole time. I really think that it actually caught something on this photo, and I want to know what everyone else thinks of them. And I also have another photo of what I believe to be a shadow man, but I'm going to put that picture on another story. Sorry, so this is so long. Let's see. I'm just going to look at this. I'll show you guys the picture. I'm thinking she's using a flash and she caught some raindrops, but you guys can be the judge, I guess. So let's see. Let me pull it up here, and then there it is. This is the photo, and this is as big as I can make it. But I don't know. I don't see anything in this photo that I would say is paranormal in nature. These are just raindrops in a different. I mean, it has to do with the aperture. With a camera, you have an aperture speed or a shutter speed. Then you have an aperture. The aperture is how big the hole is going to the sensor plate. The shutter speed is how long the door stays open to allow a light exposure. So I'm not sure about the camera or what they're using, but the streaks would be the fact that the shutter speed was tracking at least part of the descent of the raindrop, and the fact that they're illuminated, I'm sure, is due to a flash. I don't think, in my opinion, and granted, ladies and gentlemen, I could be absolutely wrong. I have no way to know for sure, but being as I do photography as well, I can't say I'm a professional photographer, but I have done professional photography. I don't think that this is paranormal, in my opinion. I think that she just caught some raindrops, but it's kind of cool to review these kind of things on the show, even if I don't think they're necessarily paranormal, because I think part of, if you're going to investigate and stuff, you've got to really do some serious critical thinking, because whatever you put forward as proof, it has to stand up to scrutiny. And if it doesn't, you need to know that. So I always look at things like this very critically, and I really don't believe that is a spiritual photograph. But I don't know. You guys will have to tell me what you guys think. Renee, you always do those long, eclectic messages in the chat. I just see it. I always see that when you guys in the chat use my name, like Paranormal Portal, it's in a big orange box. So it's like, what's going on? So yeah, I mean, it's a cool story and all. I really, again, I don't agree with bringing small children. I don't think that's probably the best thing to do. Let's see. I'm going to skip. There was a second part to that as well, but I'm just going to skip that. I'm just going to pull up some more here. Sorry. Got to get them open. Here we go. The next one is coming from Tennessee. All right, so this is interesting. Now, let me just quantify that. I don't believe it's a good idea to bring kids on ghost hunts or in investigations and stuff. That is not to suggest that children can't be aware or able to perceive spirits. I think definitely they are. Much more aware and able than we are as an adults. But I just think, because kids can be one of the first indications you actually have a haunting. A lot of the imaginary friends that aren't so imaginary often occur to kids first. They're the first to see them, and then the activity will progress, and the adults will eventually become aware of it. Generally, that's how it works. Now, kids can have to deal with paranormal things, and if that happens, then it happens, and you have to cross that bridge when you come to it. However, I don't think that kids are emotionally or spiritually developed enough to cope with what could be a very negative experience. I think you're really introducing your kids to situations that may cause them problems throughout the rest of their lives. I guess, I'm a protective parent, and maybe it's just me. Maybe you guys disagree with me, and maybe I'm off base with this, but I don't agree with that at all. I would never bring my minion looking for things, even though he's wanted to go. I just could never do it. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents. You guys will have to tell me what you think, but oh, thank you, Gemini. I appreciate that. And it's not that I need people to agree with me. It's just, I don't know. When I saw that, I was like, what? Craziness. But, we just got a phone call coming in. So I guess we better get to that and see what's going on out there. And this is area code 432. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going, Carrie?
It's going good. You were talking about stories. This story that I told you about the other day, I actually sent to you, and you read this.
Oh, man, it's a good one.
Well, I got it. My buddy Cam, Dixie Cryptid, he put this out, and actually kind of know the guy that wrote it. And I'm not sure if it's dictated. I know somebody mentioned earlier about Dogman, and this just kind of rings like Dogman,
Mm-hmm.
I call it a Bigfoot attack, but I mean, who knows?
Right.
But it's epic. Are we ready?
I'm ready to go, brother. I can't wait for you to share this one. This is one of those that makes you check your pulse. It's a good story.
Yeah, this is absolutely epic. Okay. It's not often that I'd go out of the house late, but this night I had no choice. I was out of cigarettes and had no plans on nicking out all night. I'd been sitting at the bar drawing plans for work. I'm an electrical engineer, and late nights at the bar drawing is a norm for me. When I headed out the door, I noticed the dogs weren't around. Scottish wolfhounds, that's Scottish wolfhounds, I think he means Irish wolfhounds, are big, but my 2 like to lay under my truck, so I'm always checking to see they're under there so they don't get run over. I didn't see them anywhere. I figured they must be off being dogs and didn't think much of it. I lived on the edge of a small town with 600 acres of thick pine forest out my back door. Several creeks ran through there, and there's always some animal close to the house for the dogs to run off or get sprayed by. I didn't see anything as I got into my truck, and I headed to the service station to stop up on smokes for the week. My driveway was long, about 1/3 of a mile to the road, with a wood fence running down either side. I was driving back toward the house from my cig run when I first saw it. I didn't know exactly what I had seen, but it was big and black, and it ran in front of my truck just far enough ahead of my headlights that I could only make out that it was big and black. My first thought was bear, because of the size, and it was running on all 4s. The only problem is bears of any kind just aren't seen in this part of Mississippi, unless it had escaped from a zoo somewhere or was just way out of place or lost. After scratching my head and driving the other 100 yards to the house, the thought of a bear in the area weighed heavy on me. I got out of the truck and started up to the house. When I got to the steps, I could hear my dogs whimpering under the porch. I'd never seen them act this way, as they were usually the boss of the yard. I thought they must have seen the bear and thought better of trying to boss it out of the yard. Before I could get the door open, the dogs were out from under the porch and inside, almost knocking me down getting in. I shut the door and peeked out the window. A floodlight on the side of the house dimly lit the front yard, just enough that I could see if anything was around. I saw nothing and proceeded to round up the dogs to stash them in the garage till morning. If a bear was around, I wasn't putting them back out for the night. I got them settled after a long dragging match just to get them out of the kitchen door. It's cigarette time, I said to myself. Never smoking in the house, I headed to the front porch to light up and get my fix before another long night at the bar. I opened the front door and the most awful smell hit me right in the face. It was strong and smelled like 7-day-old urine and horrible body odor. I scanned the yard and tree line to see if I could spot the culprit, but didn't see anything. I kept the 12 gauge automatic by the door, loaded up with double aught buckshot for intruders or whatever might try to get in. I reached inside and grabbed the gun, leaving the door open as I pulled on my cigarette and continued scanning left to right. I noticed what looked like a tall, dark figure against the corner of the house to my right, about 30 feet away, but it was just dark enough that it could have just been a shadow or my mind playing tricks. What could be that big and tall anyway, I thought. Still, I squinted as much as I could to try and see if it was anything at all, and I heard a loud pop come from behind my truck to the left. I took a step forward with my 12 gauge at the ready and scoured the area, but saw nothing. About halfway through my cigarette, I looked back over to the shadow at the corner of the house, and it was gone. A chill ran down my spine. Cold sweat soaked my brow as the worst feeling of dread came over me. I've never been one for the paranormal. I always thought ghosts and Bigfoot are just strong imaginations and people scaring themselves. The feeling I was experiencing was new and strong, but still, rational thought and skepticism took over, and my false sense of security could reign once again. And then it screamed. I froze in place while this ungodly sound permeated my soul. It was loud, high-pitched roar. I had never heard anything like it. I felt it in my spine. The dogs were scratching at the kitchen door, whining desperately to get in the house. I broke free of my paralysis and headed to the kitchen door to let them in when the first hit happened. Boom! The house shook like a truck slammed into it. I hurried to let the dogs in. Another scream, this time seeming louder and longer and coming from the front porch. Boom! Boom! 2 more hits. Pictures and paintings were falling off the wall. Another scream from the back of the house and another hit. Boom! I realized then there were more than one, and they were very upset. I sat in the hall in the center of the house, soaked in fear, clenching my 12 gauge with 2 huge Irish wolfhounds cowering behind me. I knew for sure there were at least 3. They would run across the roof of the house, stomping so hard I just knew they were destroying my roof. The screams and hits continued for several hours, and then they just stopped. I'm not sure when I fell asleep, but I never moved from my position in the hall. Neither did the dogs. I awakened at around 10:30 the next morning. My mouth felt like cotton. My body ached, stove up from the tension of fear. The dogs were sitting by the front door, waiting to be let out. I knew the attackers were gone. I walked out on the porch, still holding my gun. I made my way around the house, the bright sunlight revealing the damage that my house had sustained. I had that house built about 6 years earlier. It was a half-brick, half-cedar dream home with a porch that wrapped around the front and one side. 6 feet of the brick ledge by the back bathroom was on the ground. The cedar planks above it were pushed in and split all the way to the roof. What looked like footprints, 18 to 20-inch impressions, permeated the ground all around the house, and handprints the size of dinner plates dotted the cedar siding. Every corner of the house was damaged. Azalea bushes were pulled out of the ground and thrown on the roof. Shingles were scattered all over the yard and even some on my truck. Whatever did this was not playing, and I had no doubt that if they wanted in, it would have been as easy as breaking into a paper bag. I packed up and moved to a hotel that day. I've since repaired the house and sold it to an older couple a few months later. Several families wanted it, but I just couldn't bring myself to sell it to anyone with kids. For whatever reason, those creatures decided to attack that night. I couldn't bear the thought of children living through that horror. I did tell the couple that bought the house of the incident, but they didn't seem to care much. I'm not sure they even believed me. It's been 5 years now, and the thought of that night still rushes upon me from time to time. I used to drive by that house now and then to see if the older couple was still there. They were. I now live in the city. I have a wife and 3-year-old boy, and I do research Sasquatch research from the confines of our condo, as I'm convinced that's what attacked the house that night. I haven't been back in the woods. Not sure if I ever will, but no doubt that night will haunt me for the rest of my life.
Wow. That is so intense. Just the activity is just off the charts. Like, and you and I were talking a little bit last night after you shared that with me. And I'm thinking, well, why were they so mad? what could have happened that made them so incredibly furious with him? I mean, all he did was come home. But you brought up an interesting point.
Dogs, man.
It just seems to me that they were after something at that point, that there was something going on. And he said when he came up, the dogs were huddled under the porch, and they were obviously really, really well aware that these things were out there, and it had to have had something to do with the dogs. That something had happened before he got back. Whether the dogs. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, sure. I think he broke it up. It was about to be a massacre.
Yeah.
The dogs maybe chasing a baby or something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he'd never even been aware or clued in before. And now he brings the dogs inside and they're trying to tear down the house. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, that would just be terrifying. And just that sheer force. Hearing the explanation and seeing the aftermath of it and the damage it did to a 6-year-old house. It's not like it was an old decrepit house. It was brand new, and they just shattered it.
Brace lay on the ground? I mean, come on, man.
Right. Yeah.
But I thought that was cool. I'm going to read this on our show.
Oh, fantastic.
Wednesday.
Woof.
Yeah, just to discuss it with the Blue Line guys. But yeah, man, thought you guys would enjoy that for sure. If you don't listen to Dixie Cryptid, anyway, Dan gives me all his leftovers.
I like his show. I've tuned into that a few times, and I stumbled onto that by accident as well. But he does a real good job, bringing those stories to life and narrating them, and I mean he finds some real good ones. There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
But hey, I'm gonna get back to another story.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for calling in and sharing that. That was absolutely epic. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Kerry Arnold from Bigfoot Odyssey. If you have not found his show yet, definitely find it. It's brilliant. They do a ton of documentaries as well as have group discussions. It's just phenomenal.
Thanks, sir. I appreciate that.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for calling in and being a part of the show. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, Brent. See you.
All right. Good night. Wow. That is solid. That is an amazingly terrifying story. Now, I mean, it's the idea that they were so bent on getting something. Now, with the dogs on the menu, did the dogs, Carrie mentioned last night, did the dogs do something that really, really irritated these group of Sasquatch? I don't know, but you think you're safe in your house. I mean, your house is kind of your castle. It's your safe place. It's where your abode protected from the rest of the world. But something that big and that powerful that could just shred its way right through the walls if it wanted to. And I imagine, even though that was a very aggressive encounter, that was probably a very restrained reaction for them, because by physical force alone, they could literally just plow right through the walls. Our construction is strong enough to deal with us and most other elements, but these things are just on a whole nother page completely, in a whole nother book completely, as far as physical ability. So, just an epic story. So, that's cool. That is really cool. So, we are going to continue on our journey here. And thanks again, brother. I really appreciate it. And I'm honored that you chose to share it here as well before your own show. So Wednesday night, ladies and gentlemen, he'll be having his investigators report. And they are really great discussions, great people, great discussion. And they've got a really epic chat room as well. So you got to check it out. Some unbelievably kind and wonderful people. So anyway, let's get to the next one. This one's coming from Tennessee. It says, from the time my son was just a few months old till he started kindergarten, he frequently saw things that no one else saw. One evening I was sitting on our bedroom floor playing with him when he started looking at the rocking chair behind me, like there was somebody sitting in it. When I looked, in front of the rocking chair was rocked forward, like someone was sitting in it. When he was old enough to talk, he described his own grandmother to me. There was absolutely no way he could have ever seen her, since she died before I even started to date my husband. My son was able to describe her fully, including her humped back, and that she was careful to never show in her pictures. Oh, okay. So the kid was able to observe that her posture was humped over. But whenever her photo was taken, she never let that show. My grandmother wasn't the only one who came to see my son. She was just the first he was able to describe. The strangest visitor my son had was Baby. He had a baby that he played with for years, that no one else could see. And the strangest thing about Baby was that sometimes when my son was riding in the back seat of the car in his child seat, you could almost see two children in the back seat of the car. Baby would always just sit beside my son's car seat. I spent months trying to figure out exactly who Baby was. All the other people that my son saw were family members, and I could easily figure out their identities, but once my son was able to talk, it became clear to me who Baby was when my son was about 2.5 years old. I had a brother who died before I was born, under very similar circumstances that my son was born under. My son and my brother were both in December, around Christmas, and they were both premature. The same condition caused both of their premature births. Getting back to the story, I took my minion. I took my son to the graveyard where my brother is buried one afternoon, and as soon as I let my son out of his child seat in the back seat of the car, he went to my brother's grave, sat down, and started to talk to the grave marker. When I asked him who he was talking to, he told me that he was talking to Baby. Baby stayed with us until right before my son started school. My son still talks about missing Baby, even though he hasn't seen him in years. Wow, that's really cool. And I hope that's always the way it is, that, our ancestors, deceased relatives and stuff do hopefully hold vigil over us and keep an eye on things. But those are really cool stories. And again, there you have it. The example of children seeing things before anybody else does. And oftentimes exclusive of anybody else. I hope that child is able to hold on to that vision, that sight, but I don't know what happens. It seems like, these children that are really turned on with their psychic abilities do seem in a lot of cases to outgrow it. Like whether it's a physiological thing that changes their ability to perceive it or not, I don't know, but, it seems a tragedy, really, because they're able to see and experience things so clearly in both worlds. At least some of these children are, and then to lose that. But maybe it's more psychological. Maybe it's just the fact that as we grow, we have more responsibilities and more focus in our lives, and we can't keep a foot in both worlds quite as easily. Oh my God, my child is loud tonight. I'm sorry about that. He's just hollering. I don't know, he's a quiet child every other part of the day except for when I do my show. Then he feels like it's time to get loud. That's my boy. Sorry about that, though, ladies and gentlemen. I don't mean for it to keep interrupting the show. I think it's pushed out of them by peer pressure. That's a good point, Weird Desk. I appreciate that thought. Thank you. Gemini loves to hear the minion. I'm glad, because I don't want it to be, take away from the show. He's a sweetheart, just a beautiful child. But that's a great idea, that perhaps it is peers. Perhaps it is kind of the dismissal or fear of acknowledging it as they grow because their friends maybe would think they're weird or something. Yeah, that's a good point. That could be certainly the case in many of the cases. That's a great idea. Dead Spider says, my son watched an orb float right in front of him and through his door when he was 4. He can still describe it to you like it happened yesterday. Wow, that's really powerful. That's really cool. Sissy Lawson says, my oldest granddaughter is sensitive, but it was much stronger when she was younger. Yeah, and there it is again. What happens? What happens? And Cha-Cha's challenging the mountain giants. Ooh, be careful. All right, so next I'm going to Michigan. And let's see what's going on in Michigan. I got family in Michigan. This took place in the 1980s in Michigan, and I was living in a rundown, crime-filled trailer court with my 2 sons at the time. I should have known the first night we were at the trailer court when this man shot his ex-wife's boyfriend and killed him. And it's not a place to live with small children, but by then I sank in all I had for this trailer, and so it was going to be our home for a while. This trailer court was the 3rd worst in the country out of the 10 worst. However, when I first bought it, I didn't know that until I investigated it later. Yeah, you definitely should look into that kind of stuff prior to buying a home. It's like, where is my home? What are the neighbors like? But I guess, sometimes the circumstances of life don't give you much choice. So you just make the best of it you can. It was wintertime and my heating tape went out. And when I woke up the next day to get the kids to the sitters and myself a shower to go to work, I noticed that there's no water and nothing that would come out of the faucet. And I asked people near me what would cause this. Jeez. What would cause this? And they told me about the electric tape. And this was located under the trailer, and I didn't have time to look then. Sorry, my eyes got bugging me. My apologies. I didn't have time to look then, so called my brother-in-law, and he came over and found that it went out and got a new one put on. Even with the new tape on, the water pipes, it would take some time to unthaw the pipes. I needed a shower, so I went to my neighbor's house, Juanita, and asked her if I could use her shower. She said it was fine, and the kids had a shower at the sitters, and so they would be fine. And I went into her house, and we sat in her living room, and I felt odd being in there. Not sure why. Not sure because I came there to shower or something. Not sure because I came there to shower or something else. Oh, maybe that's why she felt odd. Okay, I'm understanding it now. I used her shower and felt someone was watching me. I got out and still felt something. However, I didn't see anything. I used her shower for a couple times, and then my own water was back on, and then my hot water heater went out. Oh, man, I'm sorry. So I used her shower again. I told her I thought the bathroom was cold, and she said by the bathroom it was always cold, and that I would leave the door open, and I did. I took my shower, got out and dried off, and when I looked up, I saw a young man about in his early 20s looking at me. I froze in my spot. I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out. When I was able to move, I went through the man into the hallway. To Juanita sitting watching TV, I peeked down the hallway, and the man wasn't there. I'm so sorry. I just can't see very good right now. My eyes just bugging out. There we go. I think that's better. Nope, it's not. Forgive me. Turns out in order to read well, you've actually got to be able to see the words. And I don't know, my eye just burns every once in a while. So Juanita continued living in the trailer court, and when I moved out of the trailer park, eventually she moved back to Paris, Kentucky, from where she was from, and I have not heard from her in a long time. So she may be with her son and God by now. I don't know. I think I missed a whole bunch there. Sorry, I did miss a whole paragraph. Well, it wasn't that day. I wanted to look at the doorway, but in time I did. The blood is there on the door frame of the bathroom door. I never took a shower in that bathroom again. I never went to the bathroom in there. I would go home. I did go to her trailer if she went to the bathroom, and I stood on the porch till she came back into the living room. After that, I told her I felt more comfortable being on the porch, or in the wintertime, she came to my place. So apparently somebody was killed in that trailer is what I'm getting from that. Again, I'm sorry I butchered the hell out of that, but yeah, my head just wigged out. Got all burny like something got into it. So it feels fine now, though. So back on track, hopefully. Phantom of the Paranormal Portal. You got that right, Barry. There's a few of those, unfortunately, and I think they're probably sitting in like theater seating around me laughing. So, all right. Next one's in Michigan. All names in the story are not the person's real names. I'd been taking care of an elderly lady in her home, and once she passed on, I was looking for another job, and I saw in the paper this nursing home not far from me was hiring people to work there. So I applied and got the job. I had 4 people to care for: Fred, an older man who was in a wheelchair. Remember this. Clara, an older woman left there by her kids. She was in great health. Candy, a 20-year-old mentally impaired. And Bill, a yeller and screamer, never happy about anything. Candy had the mind of a 6 or 7-year-old, and she told me people came into her room and beat her up a lot, and I do know that she had many nightmares. Clara told me people got beaten and killed in this nursing home. People they got tired of taking care of, or people that told too much what was going on there in the nursing home. And Bill said he often was beat up when he was sleeping. Fred said some of his friends just went missing, and they weren't even sick. I met Bonnie Sue, a nurse's aide, and she was very nice, and she would be the one to train me on the job routine. After 2 weeks of training, I was on my own. That twice a month, everyone worked the graveyard shift, and I usually worked days or afternoons. The first night of working the graveyard shift, I hear screaming down the hallway. I went down the hallway to see what was going on, and I can't find out where the screaming is coming from. I check all the rooms in the area, and everyone seemed to be sleeping. The screaming noise seemed to blend into the hallway walls. I went back to the desk, and when Audrey came back from her end of the hallway, I told her what happened, and she told me she hears that all the time. The next time I worked the graveyard shift, not only were the noises of screaming, but I could see people walking the hallways, and as I watched them, they seemed to either disappear into the walls or just vanish. I got the shivers and hoped I had never had to work the graveyard shift by myself. I told Bonnie Sue about this, and she told me many times you see, feel, smell, and something will touch you that you just can't explain. She told me this happens in the daytime hours as well, and the screaming, she said, she has not been able to find where it comes from, but she's sure it's from someone being hurt. I was off a day and came back to find Bill with bruises on his face and arms and a cast on his leg, and I asked what happened to him, and I was told he fell out of his bed last night. My gut feeling didn't tell me that. I told that to Bonnie Sue, and she said he didn't fall out of bed. I said, so what happened? And she told me, for my own good, it's best I didn't know. Oh man, that's tragic as hell. Candy had just had her 22nd birthday and was found dead in her bed. She was in good health. Down the hallway the other way, another person was also found dead in their bed. I never knew that man. He was not on the hallway where I worked. I often took Clara out to eat lunch, get her hair done, and do some shopping, and she said people that know too much or are a burden to the people that work there are killed or beaten up. It happens a lot of the time. Can you please let me live at your house? I did look into if she could, but her kids were her guardian and they had to give permission, and they couldn't be found. I was with Clara all day on my day off. We had fun. She didn't want to go back to the nursing home and was crying, and she said someone tried to suffocate her last night. I was beginning to believe what was going on there, and I wanted to protect her. She became a great friend to me, but I couldn't take her from home with me in the night. She could be gone from 9 a.m. but had to be back by 4 p.m. I bought food for us, and we ate at the picnic tables on the grounds for dinner time. She liked that, and I just felt that I wanted to stay with her forever. The next day when I went to work, I went to check on Clara, and she wasn't in her room. Just then I see her coming down the hallway. Hi, Clara, how are you today? It felt as if she walked right through me. I got the shivers and looked back, and I didn't see her. I went to the desk to ask Audrey what happened to Clara. Oh, you didn't hear from Bonnie Sue? I said, no. What happened to her? Oh, when Bonnie Sue went to her room to check on her, she was having a hard time breathing, and she died. I seen Clara all day that day, down the hallways, in the bathroom, outside by the tree. It was as if someone wanted me to know something, but I just couldn't figure it out, and I was frightened as well. I gave my 2-week notice, and I would be quitting there. Not long after that, Bonnie Sue called me up, and it was not quite 4 a.m., I heard her voice, "Come back to the store now." I knew she was either frightened or excited by her voice, and I got there. She told me this: "I went to check on my patients. Fred is one of them along with 3 others, and the others were in their bed sleeping, and I couldn't find Fred. I asked Audrey if she had seen Fred, and she said not tonight. I walked down the hallway of screaming into the cafeteria, and I flipped on the light, and there was Fred hanging." "What? He can't get out of his chair by himself. Who helped him?" She said she phoned the police, and now they believe me when I say something's going on here. Bonnie Sue told me every time someone died, she phoned the police to tell them, but they never believed her. If it weren't for Fred not being able to get out of his chair, she said they still would not believe her. But he didn't hang himself. The place was closed down. Audrey was arrested along with some other employees and owners. They left patients in their beds for days, wet and stinking. The kitchen where food was prepared was not up to health standards. People died mysterious deaths. Some were not claimed as dead, and yet money the nursing home still got. Bonnie Sue became a registered nurse. She works in the hospital helping accident victims. She loves her job and told me the last time I saw her, "I protect all my patients the best that I can." The place was tore down and a parking lot made in its place. And now that parking lot is for a nearby church, a holy place. Maybe now the spirits of the dead that died there when it was a nursing home, maybe they are finally at rest. Oh my God. That's so scary. Oh, when you leave your loved one in the care of a place, you really want to believe that place is what it's supposed to be. But all those mysterious deaths and stuff, now I don't know that story's true. I don't know anything about it. I just know I found it, and I guess I hoped it would be an interesting story. But whether it's true or not, and it does kind of read like a novel, so I'm not going to say for sure it's true. Every story I find for the show is alleged to be true. I'm not into broadcasting false narratives anywhere, but I don't know. I that's one that I hope to God it isn't true, but you always hear about those horror stories, weird, shady things going on, and just evil. There's just people that are just capable of evil, and I don't know how. I don't know why, but man, it just breaks my heart. All right, let's get to the next one. How are we doing on time, by the way? That was a sad story. Actually, we're at 53 minutes. Maybe I can find a quick one here. I'm so sorry to hear all that. That was a little too long. Let's see what this one is. Yeah, this one's kind of short. I'll read this one. This will be our last story of the night, ladies and gentlemen. It comes from Tennessee. I'd like to begin by giving you all a little background about my mom. My mom was a wonderful person. She was, in every sense of the word, a lady. Mom loved butterflies, and she pasted stickers with butterflies and flowers on the walls of her house. She also loved hummingbirds, and any birds really, just especially hummingbirds. Mom was diagnosed with cancer for a second time sometime around Christmas of 2004. It became apparent early in 2005 that she wasn't going to make it through this particular battle. Oh, that's so sad. Mom asked me if I would go find this guy I had dated in high school and that she and my dad both just loved. His name is Jackie, and I found him and told him that Mom wanted him to come see her before she passed away. He went the same week to see her and started to go see her 2 or 3 times a week. Mom passed away May 25th of 2005. Mom had a different kind of humor about her, and sometimes you couldn't tell if she was joking or not. I remember her telling me she would come back and check on us being her 8 children and various son-in-laws she felt particularly attached to, when she was gone. Mom always did believe in that kind of thing. After she passed away, I started dating Jackie, and Mom always said that she thought I should have married Jackie when I dated him in high school. In September of 2007, Jackie and I got married at 6 p.m. in the church I grew up in. The day of the wedding, I left home at noon I got about half a mile from my house when I drove into what I can only describe as a cloud of little purple butterflies. I immediately thought of my mom. I called my sister from my cell phone to tell her what had happened, and she too thought it must be Mom. I went on to the church and got ready for the wedding, and everything went off without a hitch. Jackie and I arrived home after the wedding and had dinner because it was a fairly nice evening. Not too hot, not too cool. We went out and sat together on the front porch swing, and we sat there for a little while just talking and holding hands when I saw a hummingbird. It just kind of buzzed around a little bit and then left, so I didn't think too much about it. Then 3 or 4 hummingbirds came buzzing around. And this is getting a little weird, but they left too. Then about 8 or 9 hummingbirds came buzzing around, and now I guess I should mention here that I have never put hummingbird feeders out on my house. At this point, I was pretty sure that my mom was responsible, and I like to think that she was saying congratulations. Well, that's a good story to end with, I think. So I hope you guys enjoyed this installment of the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. Thank you all so much for being here and being a part of it. Again, make sure to check out the podcast. Another podcast dropping tomorrow, wherever you find podcasts. So you can find it on Pandora, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, CastBox, wherever you find podcasts. Just search for Paranormal Portal, and they should be there. So I hope you guys will check it out. A lot of people have been, and we've heard a lot of great things. And some of those very same people have been come over to check out the YouTube shows. And it's a really phenomenal to meet all these new listeners and people that are part of the family now. So I hope you guys will help support that too and spread the word to people that you know that like the paranormal. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, and Twitter at Paranormal Portal. I got an Instagram just a few days ago. I mean, it's kind of connected to Facebook anyway, but I don't know. I got to figure out how to use it. I guess, I'm supposed to put pictures up there. I don't have a whole lot of pictures to put up there, but I got one just to get it because, what do you do? So anyway, I hope you guys will follow us wherever you can. Please stay in touch. And if you have a story of your own, remember, you can always email it to us here at the show at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And so that's going to wrap it up for tonight's show. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. I'll be back tomorrow night with more of the bedtime stories, ladies and gentlemen. So have a good night and sweet dreams.